Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the 232cc freaking fire-breathing GY6 engine build. This is the motor that has nearly 30 horsepower and almost goes 100 freaking miles per hour. Yeah. We need to put disc brakes on this thing. Front disc brakes, drums in the rear, not gonna cut the mustard. We need to install disc brakes on the rear. In this episode, we're covering that. We'll have 220 rear rotor, 4-piston caliper, quick disconnect brake line, titanium hardware, the best of the best. If you haven't watched episode 1, go back so you're not lost. That's where we prepped the case. We installed the final drive gears, which included bearings, seals, and the final drive gears, along with the short wheel axle. We also pressed in those annoying freaking engine bushings with our special tool, and we installed the titanium and CNC cut magnetic drain plugs. This is the episode where we start having freaking actual fun. We're gonna install those brakes. This is where things look cool. Enough of the talking, let's freaking get to crank. First off, we'll get our 4-piston sweet Pro Build caliper with dual bleeders. You'll notice that this is very important to have later when you're bleeding brakes. Next is our brake hanger that attaches there. We've got titanium hardware. Those go there. You got titanium banjo bolts. Those will go here with these crush washers. The other one will go up with the master cylinder. We've got our lug nuts, 3 titanium bolts to attach to the 220 millimeter wave cut floating rotor. And we've got our billet hub. This just attaches like that. We'll do that last after we do some fitment things. Next is our quick disconnect brake line. These things are really, really cool. Let me explain why. So this line will attach to the rear disc. See that quick disconnect? When you do that, you can disconnect the brake line without losing any fluid, not putting air in the system. And then you've got this guy that'll attach to the brake up here, and see if it's just disconnected right at the motor. Really, really sweet. So, first thing I normally do is slide this on here. This never goes on very easy because it just needs to be deburred. So it went on decent. Sometimes you have to put a mallet to get it on. That's normal to get that. I just put it on, put it off a few times just to, the more times you do it, the easier it comes off. There we go. Okay, now we can put this sucker on. We're gonna use blue Loctite on these guys. These are recessed. These little collars here are recessed. So it's important for you to do all of this by hand first, because if you zap it and it's not centered, you're gonna mess up the rotor. Now these are really hard to torque. You could have a buddy hold this for you while you torque the bolts down. Or if you feel comfortable with your torque gun, you can hit them. So there is some modifications you'll have to make. See this caliper mount? It's got this little collar here. There's a hole right here. You can see on the other side as well. There's a hole. Now I'm just going to put the caliper mount there. And then you want to make sure it's flush up against here. Just like that. Very, very important. And I've already marked this. If I pull that off of there, you can see where I made that little mark. And I'm going to have to drill a hole right there. But first, you're going to use the longer screw. And I'll slide that through. There's a nut on the other side I'll put on there, but I'm not going to do that yet because see how that's sticking up? I need to recess that hole. So I'm going to do that with a step bit or a larger bit. Let's do that now. So I've got this step bit. I'm just going to let it step down a little bit. So it doesn't really take much. I'm going to keep trying it. Slide it in. It's almost flat. I'm going to go just a little bit more. There we go. See how flush that is? And then we'll have to drill that other hole. But first I want to check. I'm going to slide my hub on. This is the most important part. Okay, now I'm going to, if you look through this crack here, I'm going to spin this over. I want to make sure that nothing is hitting, and it is not. So if it was, let me show you. You're going to have to trim down either this this guy, these. It's a rare case, but that's what you would need to do. I lost my cameraman, so you're on a tripod now. You'll have to tell me, do you like the content where it's on a tripod, which is now forward, or did you like from the beginning of the video until this time with the camera moving around, a second person filming? That's very important for me to know. Comment below what you think so that I can make enjoyable content for you guys. Would you rather have a tripod or no tripod? Now I just need to drill this sucker, the little brake caliper mount, and then we can get the rest of the brakes done. Let's do it. Okay, so now back here, I've got this little hole, as you can see back there. I need to drill a hole exactly right there. So that's what I'm going to do. Drill a hole. It'll pop out right there. Run our screw through there, and that'll be on this side, and we'll be done with that part. This is a smaller hole than I actually need, of course. Take your time. Do it right. Perfect. And I could drill from the other side. It doesn't have to be so close. Okay, to finish this off, I just have a pilot hole set up there. So I'm doing, what size is this? This is a 5/16. Perfect. Now let's try it on here. See if it fits through there perfectly. It should, if I did it right. Oh yeah. Then you got this guy. Come to the other side. Get the nut over there. We'll just crank that sucker down and we're good. This is a 13 millimeter and a 5 millimeter. Just nice and snug. For the Allen back here, a wobble socket would be best. Or wobble Allen socket. Perfect. Let me just try this one more time, make sure we're not hitting. Actually, we are. Damn. Okay, so what's happening? Let me show you. Okay, so see this guy right here? When I close that down, I don't know if you can see that. It's actually hitting. I need to go short. I need to trim this guy down. Otherwise, these little floating brads on the 220 rotor, the little rivets are hitting. So I have to do that. Let's do it real quick. So just for reference, the little pin that I cut off, we need to trim it even more, which sucks, but very, very common. So you got to do. I used to use this little grinder, hit it really quick. See how much thinner that is? It's like half as thin. But let's try it. It's pretty, let's see, I think I need to shine light from the other side because I can't really tell. It is close. I think I'm going to trim just a little bit off. It's not actually hitting right now, but I can see if I tighten this thing way down, it might hit. So a little bit more. Honestly, what we should do, I've never done this before, but how we recess this guy, how that has been recessed, I seriously think that it would be beneficial to do the same exact thing down here in the future. That's what you should do basically. And that's completely smooth. If that was smooth, then we wouldn't have the problem that we're having now. But that's what I would do. All right, now we just got to put the hub on. Little red Loctite so that hub doesn't come loose. Slide her on. Got our, actually this nut is a 13/16, so I use just a spark plug socket. And then I just rip it on. Oh yeah, definitely want to make sure it spins. With this gearing, it's really hard to turn from here. Turn it from the other side, it's easy. It's not binding up. Wee-coo. Now the stand's starting to get a little wobbly. Got all this weight back here, nothing up there. But what we need to do next is got our Pro Build caliper. Come on over here. This will just slide on like that. And then we've got our titanium hardware. But these do not come in the kit, but they're just two little washers that you're going to want to put between the caliper and the brake hanger to space it just a little bit. I want to put blue Loctite on these guys. Okay, slide that through there. It actually goes this way. This lettering other way. And then put your washer on that side. Do the same thing here. Washer. Slide it over the caliper or the disc. And get these things cranked down. But let me show you something here. Notice this line right here, the caliper. That's lined up with the line in the like where the disc is. And I know the brake pads are off-centered. That's okay, as long as we don't have dragging, which we don't, they'll center themselves. It's important for you to know that. Okay, this is just a 12 millimeter socket. You can use a Torx bit, no problem. The biggest thing when you crank this down is you want to make sure that your caliper is not dragging on the back of the 220 disc. So when I turn it, normally get those noises. You're always going to drag a little bit, and it is not. You can actually turn it by hand, which is great. It's always going to be a little tight. You got to get these things moving so you can let the gears break in. There's no oil on the bearings, not any of the gears. Everything's really tight, so remember that. Okay, next step. We got our quick disconnect brake line with our really cool little shielding there. Awesome. The thing about these brake lines is they swivel. Have you ever tried to do like a fixed brake line when you're like moving it, everything's twisting? It's not fun. So I've got our titanium banjo bolt with one crush washer on that side, and slide it through. Another crush washer on the other side. This is a little bit tight to do this. If it's really a pain in the butt, you can just take them off of here. There, I got it started. See how that works? Okay, now I got to get this on there. It ain't easy, but it could be done. Done it a million times. You always want to like hand tighten everything. You don't just want to put a wrench on it. So that's loose for sure, and that's loose. Let me see if I can run this back. All right, we'll just crank her down. I got her kind of tight off cam, but there we go. Now I just need to tighten this thing. You just want to get this nice and snug. If this isn't tight, you're going to leak brake fluid, of course. And that is our rear disc brake kit. Isn't that fancy, fancy? Look at that sucker. Sweet, huh? Now that we have the complete rear end done with disc brakes, final drive, all that, we can now continue on to the crankshaft. Oh man, episode 2 has come to an end. Good news though, episode 3 is coming, and that's where we install the stroker freaking crankshaft. That's something that you definitely need to know how to do. Doesn't matter if you're doing a 150, 50cc, or a 232. I'm gonna show you step by step how to do that. Seals, crank, high torque starter clutch, high volume oil pump, the whole 9 yards. If you're sick and tired of these freaking episodes, these ads, and you just want the whole video from start to finish, I have a solution. We have our DIY video library. It's $9.99 a month, cancel at any time. All you do is go to a desktop computer, log into YouTube, find our channel. Next to the subscribe button, the little join button. There's about probably 80 videos you've never seen on YouTube, including this build series from start to finish. No ads, none of that. That's on the DIY video library. But if you want to help support the channel, you can do that there. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next video.